What if I told you the European Union's beloved free healthcare model is built on a lie? That the real cost has been quietly paid by you, the American taxpayer, for decades. Now, what if I told you that the man in charge of it all might not have even been the one signing the orders himself? Guys, this week, this cover broke wide open. President Donald Trump launched this full-scale investigation into the use of the Autopen inside the Biden White House. And now EU leaders, they're panicking, guys. Why? Because they know that the scam has gone global. Billions of dollars in medicine discounts handed to Europe while you and me pay triple. And now the truth is finally coming out. A stunning reversal is unfolding. Former President Joe Biden's team's cracking. KJP has fled the Democratic Party. President Trump is demanding accountability, and the European Union, they're bracing for impact. So in today's video, we're going to break down exactly how former President Joe Biden's Autopen scandal could rewrite international drug policy, how Trump's executive order just blew up decades of global freeloading, and why the EU's free healthcare miracle is all of a sudden on life support. And we're also going to reveal the shocking reason why Karine Jean-Pierre is trying to jump ship now, just as subpoenas start flying. So you're not going to believe how deep this goes, guys. And by the end of today's video, you're going to understand why the EU is terrified and why this moment could change everything about what we pay, who we trust, and who's really running the show. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, because this is something that they do not want you to see. So ladies and gentlemen, we now have the confirmation of what many of us have suspected for months. This Autopen cover-up just blew wide open, and the White House cannot contain it anymore. You see, guys, earlier this month, President Donald Trump ordered a full-scale investigation into the use of this Autopen. That's essentially this robotic device that signs the president's name inside the Biden administration. Now, for ceremonial use, this was not used for ceremonial uses. This was not used just for convenience, but it was actually used for legally binding executive decisions, from anywhere from pardons to proclamations, and yes, to major healthcare and drug policy impacting global markets. Now, you might be wondering, Ron, why does any of this matter? Because sources very close to this investigation, they're alleging that Biden himself wasn't even present for many of these decisions. In fact, some claim that the Autopen was deliberately used to conceal his mental decline while unelected aides exercised Article 2 powers in his name. Guys, let me repeat this. Aides may have actually used the office of the presidency without the president's awareness. Biden tried to get ahead of the story last week, releasing a rare and defensive statement. He said, "Let me be clear. I made the decisions during my presidency." Okay, but the problem is nobody's buying it. Not the public, not the press, and certainly not the Republican-led committee demanding answers. Let me ask you guys, are you guys buying it? Drop me a 1 if you believe Joe Biden. Drop a 2 if you think Joe Biden is lying. But now, too many of these Autopen signed orders have already caused some serious consequences, especially one that we're going to talk about in just a minute that's got EU leaders in panic. But first, the White House spin machine. Karine Jean-Pierre, Biden's former press secretary and public defender, doubled down during her time behind the podium, calling the allegations as cheap fakes and blaming the right wing as misinformation. Y'all remember that, right? Yet now, all of a sudden, she's gone from the party, gone from the narrative. And as you guys are going to see later in this video, she may be key to unraveling this entire scandal. But before we get to that point, we need to talk about how this connects to Europe and why leaders in Berlin, Brussels, and Paris are now scrambling. So do not go anywhere, guys. You're going to want to hear about what next could blow the lid off of decades of economic injustice, guys. Now, you've waited long enough to fix your Medicare plan. Let's be honest. Leslie Taylor, she made the move already, and she's now saving $1,000 every year. Sharon Bertusik, she lost her Medicaid coverage altogether, but Chapter stepped in and found her a brand new plan with no premiums, no medication fees, and a copay that got dropped from $89 to $20. And if they can't do, if if these folks can do it, so can you. These are YouTube viewers that have left me comments literally sharing how awesome things have worked out for them. So again, if things can be that awesome for them, why not you? Give our friends over at Chapter a call right now. Their phone number is 909-563-8279, or you can visit them at askchapter.org/Ron. The best time to act is now. So now that the Autopen scandal is public, you'd think that the fallout would stop at Washington, D.C., right? Wrong. Because the very executive orders that President Joe Biden's team allegedly signed without his full awareness directly reshaped global drug pricing. And on top of that, the country that's suddenly got the most to lose is Europe, of all places. So I want to go ahead and quickly break this down so you understand. In early May, President Trump signed a bold executive order that forces Big Pharma to give Americans the same drug prices that they give to Europe. Not similar prices, not adjusted for inflation prices, the exact same prices. This move exposed a truth that both Democrats and EU leaders hoped would stay buried, that for decades, the U.S. has been footing the bill, subsidizing this free healthcare systems of Europe. Guys, let me repeat this. For decades, the United States has been footing the bill, subsidizing the free healthcare systems for Europe. It was never free then. Meanwhile, American patients are paying 3 to 4 times more for the same pills from the same companies. That's right, guys. The EU, the European Union, the same smug bureaucrats that love lecturing us about social justice and sustainability, they have been essentially enjoying dirt cheap medicine while Americans like, the mom in Philadelphia paying $1,000 a month for autoimmune treatment are being told, oh, just deal with it. Trump said no more. So here's the kicker. Europe can't afford to match what they've been charging us. Now, Big Pharma has 2 choices: raise prices for Europe or cut them in America. Guess what that means, guys? Panic. European leaders are terrified of blowback from their own citizens if drug prices spike. They're also afraid of the retaliation from Trump, and they should be. Why? Because President Trump isn't just calling this a health policy issue anymore. He's calling it a trade issue at this point. So, and he said, and I quote, if they want to get cute, they don't have to sell cars in the United States anymore. Whoo! Guys, that's not just a jab. That is a line in the sand if I've ever heard one. The executive order triggered what a lot of analysts are calling a most favored nation pricing blowback, and it's forcing global pharma giants and EU governments to rethink their entire pricing strategy. So the cat's out of the bag. Oh, and let me tell you this. This is only the beginning. President Trump's team is pushing to renegotiate international pricing agreements that have allowed socialist health systems to flourish on the back of U.S. taxpayers. Guys, they're done playing nice. And now the media outlets in Brussels and Berlin, they're starting to ask questions that the American press refused to. But you know who else suddenly disappeared from the Democratic Party? Karine Jean-Pierre. And of course, I need to go ahead and break down exactly why her sudden independence announcement might actually be kind of directly tied to this cover up, and how her own book could be evidence in this widening investigation. Guys, you're not going to believe what we have just found out. So now let's talk about this sudden disappearance of Karine Jean-Pierre, shall we? The same press secretary who defended every inch of the Biden administration, even when the cameras were rolling and no one believed a word of it, right? She was the face of the White House, let's be honest. During Biden's long absences, she was the mouthpiece of every executive order, every bizarre moment, and every denial about the president's cognitive health. But now, out of nowhere, KJP announces she's leaving the Democratic Party. She's releasing a book, and she's calling herself an independent now. Oh, really? So let's be clear here. This isn't some noble moment of political introspection. This is what insiders are calling a strategic exit, a stunning reversal timed to get ahead of subpoenas and scandal. Ladies and gentlemen, guys, this is the same person who stood behind the podium and said, Biden is sharp, focused, and fully in control. She's now backing away. And Washington is noticing. Are you noticing? Drop me a one if you're noticing what Karine Jean-Pierre is trying to do here. Guys, insiders are mocking the move, calling her book rollout a grift, accusing her of trying to rebrand just in time to land this cushy PR contract, board seats, or possibly even some consulting gigs. I mean, we can see what she's trying to do here, right? But here's what they're not saying on record, at least not yet. Karine Jean-Pierre may be a central witness in this Autopen scandal. She was there. She was briefed. She even answered questions for the president. If anybody would know, she would know. And so now the House Oversight Committee is issuing subpoenas. Guess who's on the short list for questioning? That's right, guys, KJP. And here's the most damning part. Her sudden deflection from the Democratic Party doesn't just signal internal collapse. It sends a very clear message to voters. Even top-level insiders no longer believe this administration can survive. But we're not done yet. So I want to go ahead and show you guys exactly how European media is reacting to the Biden scandal, why they're now scrambling to protect their image, and how this could spark a full-scale trade standoff between the U.S. and the EU. Do not go anywhere, guys. This international panic is literally just getting started. But what happens next could shift alliances. It could reshape the drug industry, and it could put former President Joe Biden's presidency in a deeper jeopardy than ever before. Look, if you're still trading your time for a paycheck and thinking, someday I'll figure it out, I want you to ask yourself, how many years have already slipped by, right? How many more birthdays? How many vacations? How many quiet mornings with your family have you already sacrificed for a job that wouldn't even blink if you disappeared tomorrow? This is why I built the Liberty Pursuit Network, guys, to help people like you stop waiting and start building freedom right now. So if you're done being overpaid, overworked, and completely invisible by a job that doesn't even care about you, click the link in the pinned comment down below, in the description, or in the pinned comment, and join the Liberty Pursuit Network today. So we've covered the internal fallout, but now we need to talk about this international blowback that's shaking the European Union to its core, because this is not just a domestic scandal anymore, guys. The Biden Autopen controversy, it's now a global credibility crisis. And guess what? European media is catching on fast. Outlets across Germany, France, and even the UK, they're now publishing editorials and exposés raising serious questions. Was the American president actually signing major international orders? Were treaties, drug pricing agreements, and regulatory deals signed with an Autopen while Biden was shielded from scrutiny? And if so, are those deals even legally binding? This is shaking the very foundation of U.S.-EU diplomatic trust. Because while Biden was busy claiming, I made the decisions, world leaders are now wondering, did he? Or did somebody else behind closed doors? And let's not forget, Biden's executive order signed via Autopen directly threatened Europe's pricing privileges in the pharmaceutical sector. And so now that those privileges are being revoked by Trump's new policies, the EU is furious and they're scared, because President Trump, he's not just demanding fair pricing. He's hinting at something much bigger, full-blown economic retaliation. That wasn't a throwaway line, guys. That was a warning, okay? The European Union's auto industry, one of the largest exports, is suddenly on notice. Billions in German and French car exports could be restricted or taxed if Europe doesn't come to the table. Now, this takes the story from a healthcare debate to the brink of a transatlantic trade war. And while the legacy media, you know how the legacy media does here in the States, while they're busy pretending that this is just another right-wing conspiracy, European leaders are quietly redrafting trade briefs. They're rechecking legal signatures, and they're preparing for negotiations they thought that they would never have to face. And here's the kicker. It all leads back to the Autopen, because If any of those orders are found to be invalid or signed under false pretense, well, the legal, diplomatic, and economic chaos could be unlike anything we've seen in decades. But of course, before I wrap up with you guys, there's one more piece of the puzzle that you need to hear. The America First shift that could end decades of foreign freeloading and the subpoenas, they're now circling Biden's inner circle. Now, stick with me because what I'm about to share with you guys, this could decide the future of global power dynamics and domestic accountability. So let's go ahead and bring this home, because for decades, American taxpayers, you have been essentially unknowingly subsidizing the world, paying 289% more for the exact same drugs, funding foreign health systems that brag about being free while the bills were shipped right back to us. And nobody said a word until now, because President Trump's latest moves, paired with the Autopen scandal blowing wide open, they're putting the entire globalist structure on notice. America First isn't just a slogan anymore. It's a hard reset. It's a hard reset on drug pricing, trade policy, diplomatic leverage, and most importantly, accountability. No more paying the tab while Brussels throws a party. No more Biden officials signing orders in the dark. No more pretending the White House is being run by the man behind the desk. We all know that those are lies. And that leads us to this. Subpoenas are now being drawn. Congressional investigators are naming names. Biden aides like Michael Donlin and Bruce Reed are being called in. But it doesn't stop there. Karine Jean-Pierre, who once stood at the podium and defended every questionable decision, may now find herself under oath, forced to answer the very questions she once dodged with a smile. Who really made these decisions? Was Biden ever briefed? Were executive orders signed without presidential input? And I think the biggest question out of all of these is, did the American people lose control of the presidency without ever knowing it? Because if that's true, if even part of that is true, this isn't just about the EU. This isn't just about drug prices. This is about the integrity of our government and who's really in charge. And whether you're Republican or Democrat, independent, or anywhere in between, you deserve answers. So as this story continues to unfold and the subpoenas drop and the international pressure builds, I'm going to be right here. I'm going to keep you guys informed with the truth that they don't want you to see. Now, if you guys found this video eye-opening, drop me a comment down below. Tell me what you think that the EU's next move is going to be. Also, do you really believe that Biden's team used the Autopen to hide the truth? Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who still thinks free healthcare in Europe comes without a cost, because that cost was you. I'll see you guys next time.